everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to talk about the books that I've read in the second half of this year, so from June or July onwards to now. I've got most of the books here but not quite all. I think we're going to have about 11 books in total. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rate each one 4 out of 5. It'll be the same system that I've used before. I'll talk about my thoughts on the book, briefly what it's about, so no spoilers hopefully. And yeah, so it's just a cosy chat about books, which I love. First up, we have a book that is called, it's a really famous book, which I don't have, which is called Into the Wild by John Krakauer. I don't know how to say his name, so I'm sorry if I got that wrong. And it's if you don't know, it's about this man who left home, became estranged from his family, and his journey about discovering different ways of living and living with little money, and how to find yourself essentially, and his very last venture was into the wilderness of Alaska, because he's always been fascinated by living in the cold, so he lived in Alaska, and it's written by, not himself, it's written by this journalist called John Krakauer. So I gave this 4 out of 5. It felt like, so what I've said about it was it felt like 2 halves. At first it felt quite list-like, so in the details that were provided it felt a bit listy rather than written about Chris's life with flavour. It was more just, this is what happened, then this, and so on. But the second half became more narrative based, which it felt more accessible and more appealing. I don't really know if that was because John Krakauer resonated more with the latter half of Chris's choices, or whether it was just because that was a stylistic choice, or whether there was no difference at all and he just wrote the book. But for me, I wasn't so keen on the first half. Second half I got into. And I've written, it makes you challenge what you value, what you think is important, and it tests what you actually want from life. What do you actually really need? What do you actually really want? How do you want to live? It was probably not a coincidence that I read it when, just before we moved, this huge move that we've just done, 650 miles north to the Scottish wilderness, to the Highlands of Scotland. So it's probably not, maybe not a coincidence that this is the book that I chose to read before I left. I guess things have a funny way of aligning themselves. So the second book that I'm going to talk about is a book that my son recommended. He's 10, although he was 9 at the time when he read this. It's The Light in Everything by Katya, Balen. It's such a good book. I've really loved this book. It obviously is a child's book, but adults I would recommend to read it as well. It's obviously very simple to read, but the concepts that she touches on are so well done. It's brilliant. So it is basically about 2 children. One, they've both got parents who are separated for whatever reason, and it's about how each of them manage that change to their circumstances. And how they then manage the change to their circumstances when they come together to become a blended family. So what I've written is, wow, this book was emotional. It was well written. I enjoyed it very much. How people, including children, deal with difficulties and trauma is often different to each other. And no one way is right or wrong. It's just different. So understanding and hearing and accepting others for those differences is extremely important. So yeah, I would definitely recommend The Light in Everything. Okay, the next book that I read is one by an author who is really well thought of, particularly in this household. My husband loves Neil Gaiman, and this book is The Graveyard Book. He actually hasn't read this book, but the reason that I read it was because Neil Gaiman used to live where we used to live, which was East Grinstead. And he actually got the idea to write The Graveyard Book whilst walking through the churchyard that I used to walk through all the time. So I thought, before I leave East Grinstead, or as I leave East Grinstead, I would like to read that book now, so I have that association. I really enjoyed this book. I gave this book 5 out of 5. Actually, The Light in Everything, I forgot to say, I gave that 5 out of 5. So I preferred this book to the previous Neil Gaiman that I read, which was The Ocean at the End of the Lane. I enjoyed that one, but it was a little bit too otherworldly for me. Even though this is completely otherworldly too, I felt more connected to this book for some reason. I really enjoyed it. It's about this boy whose family gets killed, and I can't remember if he escapes somehow, I can't remember how, but he ends up escaping to this graveyard, and the man who has killed his parents wants to kill him too. We don't know why, we found out at the end of the book. And he gets the protection of the ghosts that are there, and which means that the man who wants to kill him can't find him, because the protection means that he's invisible for that time being. So, what I wrote, this book is fantastic. This story is really well written and formed. A boy finds family and friends in unlikely places. Another book I didn't want to end. Yeah, it's a brilliantly woven story that I really, really would recommend, absolutely. Okay, the next book I read was the first book. One of the first books I read, who's moving here actually, was The Binding by Bridget Collins. This book is about this life of a boy who has this episode, I want to say, this thing, like illness essentially, happens, and he's a farmer. This is set in Victorian times, or no, medieval times, I think. And his family are poor. He's the oldest son, the only son, and he's therefore due to take over the farm. But throughout this illness, he can't do it, and the parents get worried. This is all we know at the beginning. So, and then he is given to a new career, a new vocation with a binder, someone who binds books. So that was partly what drew me to it, because I hand stitch notebooks, as you can see here. So it's one of the things that I love, and so that's what drew me to this book. I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5, and I've written I don't know why I didn't give it 5. I really did enjoy the book. The story was good, following the life of this young man finding himself. The idea of binding was interesting and scary. So binding a book doesn't just mean hand creating it, hand stitching it. but I won't. I'll leave the what it means to if you want to read the story. So that was a really interesting concept. I like the drawing, that it's drawing from history. So maybe it was something about the way it was written or something about the story. I can't remember why I didn't give it 5, and clearly I couldn't pin it down at the time. So very good book. I did enjoy it. I would recommend. 4 out of 5. Okay, the next book is Kate Mosse. I didn't actually say The Binding by Bridget Collins. Forgot to say that bit. Is Kate Mosse, The Ghost Ship. Now this book I've seen on shelves, stands out. I've seen it on shelves in the library for a long time, but I'd never read it, and there's always been other things to read, and I don't know why I would read it. I just noticed it, I remember noticing it. But the libraries now in the Highlands are a lot smaller, so the selection to choose from is a lot less varied. So there isn't as much books that I'm normally drawn to, fantasy books. So I started reading books that were a bit different to what I'd normally pick, and actually there's a few coming up of books that I don't normally read. So this was one of them. So I read the book, really enjoyed it, very good book, very well written story, I enjoyed it, and then I realised it was the third in a trilogy. So if you want to read the book, don't be put off by the fact that you'd have to read the other 2 first. You don't have to. I think this is a standalone book which is informed by previous the previous events that happen in the other 2 stories. So I haven't actually read the other 2 stories yet. I don't think I will now. But this was a very good book. It follows the life and times essentially of the Joubert family, who live in France and Amsterdam in the 1600s, and this one is about Louise Joubert and her life particularly, and what happens to her. It was really good. I have given it 4 out of 5. Brilliant story, really engaging historical fiction set in the 1600s when the Catholics and Huguenots were challenging each other's views. But the look at women's roles and their challenges is managed very well, just at times written a little simply. Okay, so I enjoyed the fact that there was a strong female lead characters in this one, and I think that's a theme across the whole of this trilogy. And I keep saying trilogy, it's actually got a 4th one, which isn't, so there are, the 3 is a trilogy, and then the 4th one is sort of on its own. So I really enjoyed the fact that women, and it's challenging why women were treated that way, or still are in lots of cases, and women going against what conventional norms suggest you should. However, like I said, it was written a bit simply at times. So 4 out of 5. Definitely recommend. So if I go straight, I actually then read the 4th one, so the one that came after this. I haven't got it here, but it's called The Map of Bones by Kate Mosse. And I preferred this one, so I gave this one 5 out of 5. I didn't feel like the simplicity was there, but still the strength of the female character was there. And I liked the way that the story wove together with this story. So perhaps I was let down by it's nothing to do with Kate Mosse, it's to do with the fact that I hadn't read 1 and 2, that maybe this one didn't resonate as much as it could have done, even though it was really, really good and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the second one and the way that it came together. So it follows the life of an 1800s descendant of Louise Joubert this time, and how her life is now with women's life, and what she does with her choices. It's a very good story. Love the conclusion. Kept me reading, and very easy to read. Love the strong female characters throughout the series. So 5 out of 5 for Map of Bones, that one was called, Kate Mosse. Okay, so then I read another book, which I haven't got, called The House of Whispers by Anna Mazzola. I can't read what I've written. Anna Mazzola, maybe? I'll put the name in the description below. So following on from having another story, which I don't normally choose to read, this is absolutely another one of those. Still a historical fiction, so I do like historical fictions, but just not so many of them. I've read a few Phillipa Gregory's recently, Kate Mosse, a couple of hers, and now this lady too. So this was set in World War II, the start of World War II in fascist Italy, and it follows the life of this woman who was a, I think she was a Slovakian, if I remember rightly, immigrant with her parents' generation, and it follows and talks about how the change with the fascist government, and how that developed into quite a extreme dislike, hatred towards different cultures, non-Aryan, etc., non-Italian. So from that point of view, it was really interesting and enjoyable. But the actual story wasn't really about. I mean, it sort of had other stuff in there too about this house that she ended up marrying and living in a house that had whispers, which is hence the title. I've given it a 4 out of 5. It's quite a different book to what I've read before. Set before World War II in Italy, with the build-up of fascism and Mussolini, hatred of Jews and other outsiders, a mystery about finding strength in the hardest of times as a woman and as a Slovenian or a Slovakian, in a country with building hate, fear and paranoia. I enjoyed the story, but I found it hard to read at times. True stories can often be the hardest to read. Because this actually happened. People did treat people like that. People still are treating people like that. But the truth was hard to read. But I would recommend to read it. It's good to face truth and hear it, because that's how change happens. Okay, so the next one I read was another historical fiction by Phillipa Gregory, called The Tidelands. This one was not as good as the other ones that I've enjoyed, because this was based on having following the life of a poor lady, and again a strong female character. I'm really liking the strong female characters at the moment, and following how she manages to cope in a world where she has these amazing skills but can be misconstrued as witchcraft. So it's about her finding the line to maintain her life, essentially, and look after her children. So it was a good book. I gave it 4 out of 5. But at the time, what I wanted was something more similar to what the previous Phillipa Gregory's I'd seen, like the White Queen. This one was different, it was completely different, but it was still really good. I definitely enjoy it and I would recommend. Okay, the next book is a book that I've been reading for about a year, maybe a bit longer, and it's called Unruly by David Mitchell. And this is a look at the history of the kings and queens in England from the beginning, whenever that might be, through to Elizabeth I, the end of her reign, and when it goes into King James I. So it stops there, and he explains, because basically after that, there's not really, it's all quite predictable and safe and stable, so it's not so enjoyable to read about, I would say, is what he said. So this was a really, really good book. If you like history, if you like anything to do with history and finding out about what happened and why, this is a really well written, easy to read look at the English monarchy. Now that I've moved to Scotland, I would like there to be a book on Scottish monarchs of the same ilk. So if you have any recommendations for that, that would be really helpful if you could comment below, because I would love to read a book about Scottish history now too, because I feel like it's very relevant. I gave this 5 out of 5. A fantastic detailed look at the monarchs from across the medieval era and from early to medieval era. Very easy to read, great connections, engaging, and I've put need to read it again. There's so much information in here. Retaining it is hard for me. So if you're anything like me, you might need to read it more than once. So I'd like to read it again. I'm going to give it a little bit of time, and then I'm going to crack on and start it again, because it was, yeah, really, really good book. So recommend that one. Then the next one I read was called Walking Home, A Poet's Journey by Simon Armitage. I didn't like this book. I found it very dull, very listy, very like this happened and this happened. How I managed to get through it, I don't know. I think it's probably the kind of book that if you like Simon Armitage or know of him, he's a poet, then you would get a lot from the book. Because you could relate to the stories a bit more, or the way that he's written it. You would care about the fact that he's done this, that and the other. But I don't really follow poets. I don't follow Simon Armitage. I knew of him before I'd read the book. But really I picked it up because I'm interested in walking. He walks the Pennine Way, I think it's what it's called. I can't remember. So he walked the Pennine Way. So I'm interested in the fact that he's done a long distance hike. That's why I picked it up. But it was boring. I put 2 stars, 2 out of 5. Quite dull, felt long, actually skipped ahead a few times. Maybe you can connect, if you connect with the author poet, you'd find it interesting, otherwise give it a miss. So yeah, not exactly an endorsement for that story, for that book. Yeah, not the best. And then lastly, I have got another book which is not normally what I'd read, for the same reasons as I said earlier, and it's called The Midnight Hour by Eve Chase. So this is a mystery book, which I know are extremely popular, mystery crime book. They're just not normally what I read. I find them quite predictable usually. I find them quite simply written, and this one, for the first half, followed all those same things. It was, I guessed most of it, if not all of the twists that came out for the first half. It was really, really simply written. It was good. It was a good, easy story to keep moving forward with, but not. It was engaging. The story was engaging enough to keep reading. But the second half, maybe even the second third, the last third, was good. Much, much better. I actually enjoyed the second half. The twists were, most of them, not all of them, but most of them were surprising. I didn't see them coming. So, and that made me actually really enjoy the book towards the end. So I've given it 3 out of 5. But if you like mystery books and you like crime books, then I would definitely say this is one for you, because she does write well. It's just the twists were obvious at first to me. But if you like mystery books, then I would recommend it. So that's me. That's all the books I've read in 2025. Moving forward into 2026, I'd like to read more fantasy again. I'd throw in some historical fictions as well. Some maybe Phillipa Gregory, maybe a couple of others, we'll see. But I really want to get back to my fantasy. I haven't read a good fantasy for a long time. So if you have any recommendations for fantasy books that I can read, that would be great. I really need the third in Patrick Rothfuss's trilogy, the Killer Quology. That one. I need the third one to come out in this trilogy. It's so good. So I mean, as everyone knows, we've all been waiting for so long for that book. So if you have any other recommendations for fantasy books while I'm waiting for the next Patrick Rothfuss, then please put them in the comments below. I hope you had a good 2025 of reading. If you've got any recommendations for me, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one.